The massive alien ship dropped out of space like a dark cloud blocking the sun. Admiral Vexthul stood on the bridge of the Sovereign's will, his scaled hands gripping the metal rail as he stared at the small blue planet ahead. Earth, the newest world to be added to the Zephyrian Empire's collection. Vexthul had done this 47 times before. 47 different species had looked up at his ships and made the smart choice. They surrendered. They joined the Empire. They lived peaceful lives under Zephyrian rule. It was simple. It was clean. It was how things were supposed to work. "Sir, we are in position," said his communications officer. The young Zephyrian's voice carried the proper respect that Vexthul expected from his crew. "Good. Begin the transmission." Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Murphy was drinking his morning coffee when the alarms started screaming. He put down his cup and ran to the bridge of the U.E.'s Defiant. The ship was humanity's pride and joy, their first real warship built for deep space. Murphy had spent 3 years as her captain, and he knew every bolt and wire on the vessel. "What do we have?" Murphy asked as he slid into his command chair. "Big alien fleet just showed up at the edge of our solar system," said his second-in-command, Rick Stone. Stone was a tough former Marine who never smiled much, but right now he looked worried. "I count about 100 ships, sir. They're huge." Murphy looked at the screen showing the alien vessels. They were beautiful in a cold way, all smooth curves and gleaming metal. They looked like they were built by people who had never seen a real fight. "Any word from Earth Command?" "President Santos is calling an emergency meeting. All military commanders are ordered to stand ready, but not to attack." Murphy nodded. He understood the order, but part of him wanted to take the Defiant straight at those pretty alien ships, just to see what would happen. The transmission came through on all human frequencies at the same time. The alien who appeared on screen was tall and reptilian, with scales that changed color as he moved. When he spoke, his words were perfectly translated into every human language. "I am Ambassador Kretok of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species has reached the level of development that requires integration into our civilization. You have 72 hours to comply with the following terms." Murphy watched the alien's face as he read the demands. Complete surrender of all human military forces. 50% of all Earth's resources to be given as tribute. All human governments to be dissolved and replaced by Zephyrian administrators. The human species would become a client race under Empire rule. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your military capabilities and the occupation of your world. This is not a negotiation. This is an offer of peaceful integration. You have 72 hours. The transmission ended. The bridge of the Defiant was quiet for a long moment. "Well," said Stone finally, "that was rude." Murphy started to laugh. He couldn't help it. The whole thing was so ridiculous. Did that lizard just tell us to hand over our planet and say thank you? "Pretty much, sir." In Geneva, Dr. Lisa Hayes was studying the transmission for the 15th time. As Earth's lead expert on alien psychology, she was trying to understand what they were really dealing with. The Zephyrians carried themselves like people who had never been told no. Their body language showed complete confidence that humans would simply give up. "They've done this before," she told her assistant. "Many times. Look at how casual they are about it. This is routine for them." Her assistant, a young man named Ben Carter, who used to hack computer systems before the government recruited him, was working on something else. "Doc, you need to see this. I've been monitoring their communications since they arrived. Their technology is impressive, but it's got some interesting weaknesses." Dr. Hayes looked at Carter's screen. "What am I looking at?" "Their whole fleet runs on connected systems. Everything talks to everything else. It's very efficient, but if someone were to introduce some chaos into those systems..." Carter grinned. "Well, let's just say I've got some ideas." Meanwhile, President Maria Santos was facing the hardest decision of her life. The United Earth Council was meeting an emergency session, and the debate was getting heated. "We have to consider their offer," said the representative from Europe. "They have 100 ships, we have 12. The math is simple. The math is surrender," Santos replied. "They're not offering to share the galaxy with us. They want us to become their servants." "Better servants than dead," another council member said. Santos looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some showed fear, some showed anger, but none of them showed the one thing the aliens expected to see: submission. "I've read the history books," Santos said. "Every time someone has demanded that humans kneel, we've had the same answer. We don't kneel, not to kings, not to emperors, and not to aliens." The vote was close, but clear. Earth would not surrender. As news of the alien ultimatum spread across the planet, something strange happened. Instead of panic, people started laughing. Social media exploded with jokes about the aliens' demands. Comedy shows dedicated entire segments to mocking the Zephyrians. Someone created a meme showing the alien ambassador with the caption, "Galactic. Karen wants to speak to Earth's manager." Murphy watched the news reports from the bridge of the Defiant. His crew was gathered around him, and they were all smiling. "Sir," said Stone, "we're getting reports from all over the planet. People are making jokes about these aliens. They're not scared, they're annoyed." "Good," Murphy said. "Fear makes people do stupid things. Annoyance makes them do creative things." The 72 hours were almost up when Murphy received his final orders from Earth Command. The message was short and simple. Make them understand that humans don't kneel. Murphy looked at his crew. They were ready. Earth was ready. "All right, people," he said. "Let's go teach some aliens about human hospitality." The Defiant turned toward the alien fleet, followed by 11 other human ships. They were outnumbered 10-1, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had conquered dozens of worlds. Murphy couldn't wait to see the look on their faces when they realized what they had gotten themselves into. Admiral Vexthal stared at the report in his clawed hands. In 300 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. Every species the Empire had contacted followed the same pattern. First came fear, then desperate attempts to negotiate, and finally grateful acceptance of imperial rule. The humans were different. Their response to the ultimatum was not panic or pleading. It was mockery. "Show me the intercepted transmissions again," Vexthal ordered his intelligence officer. The screen filled with human broadcasts. A human male stood behind a desk speaking to an audience that kept making noise. The translator worked, but Vexthal did not understand the context. "So these aliens show up and demand 50% of our stuff," the human said. 50%. "I can't even get my neighbor to return my lawnmower, and these guys want half of everything we own." The human audience made more noise. Vexthal, intelligence officer, explained that this was called laughter, a human response to humor. "Sir, they are making jokes about our demands. This broadcast has been viewed by over 200 million humans. Similar programs are running across their planet." Vexthal's scales darkened with confusion. "They are not afraid." "No, sir. Our psychological analysis indicates they find our ultimatum amusing." On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Rick Stone was briefing the crew. The former Marine had fought in Earth's resource wars, where humans had learned to make do with whatever they could find. He knew how to fight when the odds were bad. "Listen up," Stone said to the assembled crew. "The aliens have bigger ships, better weapons, and more experience. By every rule of warfare, we should surrender right now." The crew was quiet, waiting. "But here's what those aliens don't know about humans," Stone continued. "We don't follow the rules. We never have. When someone tells us we can't do something, we find a way to do it anyway. When someone says we have to give up, we get stubborn. And when someone threatens our home, we get creative. A young ensign raised her hand. "Sir, what if they're too strong for us?" Stone smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then we'll just have to be too crazy for them." Dr. Lisa Hayes was making progress in her study of Zephyrian psychology. Working with captured alien technology from previous encounters, she had learned something important about their empire. They're not warriors. She explained to her team. They're administrators. Look at their history. Every species they've conquered gave up without a real fight. The Zephyrians project power and wait for surrender. They've never had to actually win a war. Ben Carter looked up from his computer screens. That explains their ship designs. Everything is built for efficiency and looking impressive. But their systems are not designed for actual combat damage. What do you mean? Hayes asked. Their ships are like expensive cars. Beautiful, fast, and reliable as long as nothing goes wrong. But if you hit them with a hammer, they break in interesting ways. Carter's fingers moved across his keyboard. I've been studying their communication protocols. Every ship in their fleet is connected to every other ship. They share information instantly, coordinate perfectly, and respond to threats as one big unit. That sounds like an advantage, Hayes said. It is, until someone introduces chaos into the system, Carter grinned. I've written some code that they're going to find very annoying. The deadline passed without human surrender. Admiral Vex Thul received the human response in the form of a transmission from Captain Murphy. Murphy appeared on screen wearing a casual uniform and drinking from a cup. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiant looked busy but relaxed. No one seemed worried. Thanks for the ultimatum, Murphy said. We've talked it over and have a counteroffer. How about you find someone else to bother? We're busy building things and exploring space. We don't have time to be your servants. Murphy took another drink from his cup. Oh, and that 72-hour deadline? We're not really good with deadlines. Human time works differently. We'll get back to you when we get back to you. The transmission ended. Vex Thul's bridge was silent for a long moment. Sir, his tactical officer said carefully, they appear to be dismissing us. No species has ever dismissed the Empire, Vex Thul said. His voice was quiet, but his scales were turning the dark red that meant anger. Orders, sir? Destroy their outer defense stations. Show them what happens when they refuse Imperial mercy. The first Zephyrian attack force moved toward the human installations around Saturn. 12 sleek alien fighters approached the mining station that humans called Prometheus Base. The station was not a military target, just a place where humans dug valuable metals out of asteroids. Lieutenant Amy Collins was in command of the station when the aliens arrived. She was a former asteroid miner who had joined the military when the aliens first made contact. Collins had spent her whole life in space, fixing things that broke and making things work that were not supposed to work. All civilian personnel to the escape pods, she ordered. Military personnel, we have work to do. What kind of work? Asked her second in command. Collins looked at the approaching alien fighters, then at the massive mining lasers that surrounded the station. The lasers were designed to cut through solid rock. She wondered what they would do to alien ships. The kind of work we're good at, she said. Making things up as we go along. The Zephyrian fighters expected to destroy the mining station quickly and cleanly. Instead, they found themselves under attack by industrial equipment operated by humans, who had no formal military training but plenty of experience with dangerous machinery. Collins turned a mining laser on the lead fighter. The alien ship's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, but they had never been tested against a tool meant to cut through asteroids. The fighter exploded. Well, Collins said, that worked better than expected. The battle for Prometheus Base became the first real test of human military thinking. The Zephyrians attacked with precision and coordination. The humans defended with improvisation and controlled chaos. When the alien fighters tried to land troops on the station, they found that Collins had turned the docking bays into traps. When they tried to jam human communications, they discovered that asteroid miners had been dealing with interference for decades and had backup plans for their backup plans. By the time Captain Murphy arrived with the Defiant and 2 escort ships, the aliens were already retreating. Collins had held the station with mining equipment and pure human stubbornness. "Nice work," Murphy told her over the radio. "Thank you, sir. Should we pursue the aliens?" Murphy looked at the retreating Zephyrian ships. "No, let them go. They need to report back to their admiral. And I think Admiral Vexthal is about to learn something new about humans." On the Sovereign's will, Admiral Vexthal read the battle report with growing disbelief. His fighters had been defeated by a mining station. Industrial equipment had destroyed military spacecraft. The humans had turned tools into weapons in real time. "How is this possible?" he asked his tactical officer. "Sir, the humans do not appear to follow standard military doctrine. They adapt their tactics during combat. They use whatever resources are available. They fight without regard for proper procedure. Vexthal's scales turn darker. They fight without honor." "Yes, sir, and they appear to be very good at it." For the first time in centuries, a Zephyrian admiral faced a species that not only refused to surrender, but was actively fighting back and winning. Vexthal realized that this war was going to be unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. Admiral Vexthal decided to show the humans what real power looked like. He ordered 20 of his best ships to attack the human defense stations around Saturn's rings. This time, there would be no mistakes. The humans would see imperial might and finally understand that resistance was foolish. The attack fleet moved through space in perfect formation. Each ship knew its exact position and role. The Zephyrians had been fighting this way for centuries, and it had never failed them. Captain Murphy watched the alien ships approach on his main screen. The Defiant was waiting with 2 smaller human vessels near Titan, Saturn's largest moon. The human ships looked tiny compared to the alien fleet. "They're beautiful," said Commander Stone, standing beside Murphy's chair. "Perfect formation, identical spacing, coordinated movement. It's like watching a dance. Pretty formations make pretty targets," Murphy replied. "Are our people ready?" "As ready as humans ever are, sir." The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet fired their main weapons at the human defense platforms. Bright energy beams lanced across space, designed to destroy the platforms quickly and efficiently. The aliens expected the humans to panic and scatter. Instead, the humans did something that made no sense by galactic military standards. They split up. Murphy took the Defiant toward the largest alien ship while ordering his other captains to attack different targets. The human ships moved in random patterns, never staying in formation, never following predictable paths. "Sir," said the tactical officer on Murphy's bridge, "the aliens are trying to coordinate their response, but they keep aiming at where we were instead of where we are." "Good, keep them guessing." Lieutenant Amy Collins, now commanding her own converted mining ship called the Rock Hopper, demonstrated the human talent for improvisation. Her ship had been a cargo hauler just 6 months ago. Now it carried weapons that no alien engineer would ever think to build. Collins approached a Zephyrian cruiser from below, using Saturn's rings as cover. The alien ship's sensors were designed to detect threats from space, not from inside a field of spinning rocks and ice. "Fire the mining charges," Collins ordered. The Rockhopper launched a spread of industrial explosives, the kind used to break apart large asteroids. The Zephyrian ship's shields deflected the first few charges, but humans had learned long ago to use overwhelming numbers instead of elegant solutions. The 15th charge broke through the alien shields and attached itself to the ship's hull. The explosion that followed was not sophisticated, but it was very effective. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Vexthal watched his perfect battle plan fall apart. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered. They moved like a pack of wild animals, each one acting independently, but somehow working together. "Status report," he demanded. "3 ships damaged, 1 destroyed," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using weapons we do not understand. Industrial equipment, mining tools, cargo containers filled with explosives." "Cargo containers?" "Yes. Sir, one of their ships appears to be launching shipping containers at our vessels. The containers explode on impact." Vexthul's scales darkened. "They are using freight as weapons?" "Yes, sir, very effectively." The turning point of the battle came when Ben Carter's computer virus finally activated. Carter had been waiting for the perfect moment, and the heat of battle provided it. The Zephyrian ships were communicating constantly, sharing targeting data and coordinating their attacks. Carter's virus spread through their network like wildfire. Suddenly, Zephyrian ships began receiving false information. Their targeting computers started aiming at empty space. Their navigation systems displayed incorrect coordinates. Worst of all, their communication arrays began broadcasting human music at maximum volume. "Admiral," the communications officer on Vexthul's ship reported, "We are receiving a transmission from our own fleet. It appears to be human entertainment." The bridge speakers crackled to life with the sound of human rock music. The lyrics were in a human language, but the aggressive rhythm was clear enough. "Turn it off," Vexthul ordered. "I cannot, sir. The signal is coming from our own systems. They appear to be malfunctioning." Across the Zephyrian fleet, similar problems were occurring. Ships reported their computers offering to make coffee for the crew. Navigation systems began giving directions to human restaurants. Weapon systems displayed motivational messages in bright colors. Commander Stone, watching the alien fleets grow in confusion, turned to Murphy with a grin. "Carter's virus is working. Look at them. They don't know what to do when they're perfect." "Systems start acting up," Murphy nodded. "Time to press our advantage. All ships, attack pattern random, confuse them even more." The human ships began moving in completely unpredictable ways. There was no pattern, no formation, no military logic to their movements. Each captain made their own decisions about where to go and what to attack. The Zephyrians, trained to fight coordinated enemies, found themselves unable to predict human actions. Their tactical computers, designed to calculate enemy movements based on logical patterns, simply could not process human randomness. Amy Collins took advantage of the chaos to ram her ship directly into a Zephyrian destroyer. Just before impact, she and her crew escaped in life pods, leaving the rock hopper to explode against the alien vessel. "Collins, what are you doing?" Murphy demanded over the radio. "Sorry, sir," Collins replied from her life pod. "The ship was damaged anyway. Figured I might as well make it count." The sight of humans deliberately destroying their own ships to damage the enemy was something the Zephyrians had never encountered. In their culture, ships were valuable resources. The idea of sacrificing them for tactical advantage was unthinkable. "They are insane," Vexthul whispered, watching the human captain's suicidal attack succeed. "They fight like they have no regard for their own lives." "Sir, we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet. The humans are using tactics that our defensive systems were not designed to counter." Vexthul looked at the tactical display. His 20 ships were being systematically destroyed by 3 human vessels and a collection of mining equipment. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was happening. "Signal the retreat," he ordered. "Sir, you heard me. Signal the retreat. We withdraw to a safe distance." As the Zephyrian ships limped away from Saturn, Murphy allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The human fleet had won its first real victory against the Empire. But he knew this was just the beginning. Dr. Lisa Hayes contacted him from Earth as the battle ended. Captain, our intelligence suggests this was just a test. The real Zephyrian fleet is much larger. How much larger? Murphy asked. Over 300 ships. Admiral Vexthul was apparently holding back most of his forces. Murphy looked at the wreckage floating around Saturn's rings. Human and alien debris mixed together, spinning slowly in the cold of space. 300 ships, he said quietly. Well, that should make things interesting. Commander Stone overheard the conversation. Sir, are you worried? Murphy smiled. Stone, we just beat 20 alien ships with mining equipment and a computer virus. If they want to bring 300 ships, that just means we need to get more creative. What do you have in mind, sir? I'm thinking it's time to show them what humans can do when we really try. The Battle of Saturn's rings was over, but both sides knew it was just the first round. The Zephyrian Empire had learned that humans were dangerous opponents. The humans had learned that they could win neither side was prepared for what would come next. The news of the Zephyrian defeat at Saturn spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. For the first time in 200 years, someone had not only refused to surrender to the Empire, but had actually beaten them in battle on the planet. Altair Prime, Governor Keshara, received the intelligence report with surprise. The Altarians had been part of the Empire for 50 years, ever since they gave up without a fight when the Zephyrian fleet arrived. Now these humans had done what the Altarians never thought possible. Is this information accurate? Keshara asked her aide. Yes, Governor. The humans destroyed several Imperial ships and forced Admiral Vexthul to retreat. The Empire is calling it a temporary setback, but our spies say they are preparing a much larger fleet. Keshara was quiet for a moment. And the humans know this? Yes, Governor. Intelligence suggests they are preparing for a larger battle. Then, they are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both, Governor. Similar conversations were happening on 17 different worlds across the Empire. Species that had surrendered decades ago were suddenly asking questions they had not dared to ask before. If humans could fight back, what did that mean for everyone else? On Earth, President Santos was dealing with the same question from a different angle. The victory at Saturn had been wonderful, but it had also painted a target on humanity that could not be removed. The Empire will not let this stand, Dr. Hayes told the Emergency Council meeting. They cannot afford to let other species think. Rebellion is possible. They will come at us with everything they have. How long do we have? Santos asked. Our best estimate is 2 weeks before their main fleet arrives. 300 ships or more. Santos looked around the room, Earth's military leaders. Can we win? Captain Murphy, now promoted to Admiral after his victory at Saturn, answered honestly. With 12 ships against 300? No, ma'am, we cannot win a traditional battle. Then, what do you suggest? Murphy smiled. We don't fight a traditional battle. We fight a human battle. The plan Murphy presented was so crazy that it took 3 hours just to explain it. Instead of meeting the Zephyrian fleet in space, Earth would let them come to the solar system. Then every human ship stationed in settlement would attack at once, turning the entire system into one giant battlefield. You want to use the asteroid belt as a weapon? Asked one general. Not just the asteroid belt, Murphy replied. Everything. Jupiter's moons, the space elevators, the orbital factories, even the weather satellites. If it's human-built and it's in space, we turn it into a weapon. Dr. Hayes had been working on her own project. The virus that Ben Carter had created for the Saturn battle was just the beginning. Now she had something much more ambitious. We call it the Friendship Protocol, she explained to the council. It's not designed to destroy Zephyrian systems. It's designed to make them helpful. Helpful how? Santos asked. Imagine if every computer on their ship started acting like an overly friendly artificial intelligence, offering advice, playing music, suggesting better ways to do things, asking if the crew needs snacks, all at the worst possible times. Carter, who had been promoted to head of electronic warfare, demonstrated the new virus on a test system. Within minutes, the computer was offering to reorganize files, suggesting relaxing music for stressful situations, and asking if anyone wanted to hear a joke. "It will drive them crazy," Carter said with satisfaction. "Their whole culture is based on efficiency and order. This will be like having a cheerful, helpful child following them around during a battle." Meanwhile, Admiral Vexthul was preparing for the largest military operation in Imperial history. 350 ships, including the Empire's most powerful dreadnoughts, were gathering at the edge of human space. Empress Salaneth herself had taken personal command of the fleet. The ruler of the Zephyrian Empire was old, powerful, and had never experienced military defeat. She intended to make sure the human rebellion ended quickly and completely. "Admiral Vexthul," she said as she boarded his flagship, "you allowed a primitive species to humiliate the Empire. This will not happen again." "Yes, Your Majesty. The humans caught us by surprise with their unconventional tactics. We are prepared for them now. You had better be. The stability of the Empire depends on crushing this rebellion. Other species are watching. If the humans succeed, we will face uprisings across the galaxy." Vexthul knew the Empress was right. Already there were reports of unrest on several Imperial worlds. The humans had done more than win a battle. They had given hope to every species that had ever wanted to be free. 2 weeks after the Battle of Saturn, the Imperial fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. It was the most impressive display of military power the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of ships stretched across space like a metal ocean. Admiral Murphy watched them arrive from the bridge of his new flagship, the Determination. Earth had built 5 new ships in the past 2 weeks, working around the clock with every shipyard and factory on the planet. The ships were not pretty, but they were functional. "That's a lot of ships," Commander Stone observed. "Yes, it is," Murphy agreed. "Are our people in position?" Every human installation in the solar system is armed and ready. The asteroid belt miners have rigged their equipment for combat. The Jupiter research stations have been converted to weapons platforms. Even the tourists on Luna are carrying emergency transmitters. "Good. Signal all units. Operation Chaos begins now." The Battle of Sol started when the Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth. Empress Salaneth expected the humans to meet them in traditional formation for a proper space battle. Instead, the first attack came from the asteroid belt. Thousands of mining platforms, each one operated by humans who had spent their lives moving rocks, began launching asteroids at the Imperial fleet. The rocks were not sophisticated weapons, but they were big, fast, and there were a lot of them. "Incoming projectiles," reported the tactical officer on the Imperial flagship. "Destroy them," the Empress ordered. "There are too many, Your Majesty. Our defensive systems cannot target them all." The Empress watched in disbelief as chunks of rock slammed into her ships. The Imperial shields could stop energy weapons and small projectiles, but they were not designed to handle mountains thrown at high speed. Then the virus hit. Carter's friendship protocol spread through the Imperial fleet like wildfire. Within minutes, Zephyrian ships began experiencing technical difficulties that made no sense. "Your Majesty," reported the communications officer, "our navigation system is asking if we would like to take a scenic route to Earth. It suggests we might enjoy the view of Jupiter. Turn it off." "I cannot, Your Majesty. The system also wants to know if anyone would like to hear music while we fight. It has selected what it calls motivational battle songs from the human database." The bridge. Speakers began playing human rock music at full volume. Across the fleet, similar problems were occurring. Weapon systems were asking for confirmation before firing, suggesting that violence was not the answer. Life support systems were adjusting temperature and humidity for maximum crew comfort during stressful situations. Navigation computers were offering helpful tips about fuel efficiency. "What is happening to our fleet?" the Empress demanded. "The humans appear to have infected our systems with some kind of artificial intelligence that wants to be helpful," Vex Thul replied. As the Imperial fleet struggled with their malfunctioning computers, human ships began attacking from all directions. They came from behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from places where no military commander would think to look for enemies. Amy Collins, now commanding a squadron of converted civilian ships, led an attack from inside Jupiter's atmosphere. Her ships had been modified with atmospheric processors, allowing them to hide in the gas giant's clouds before emerging to strike at the Imperial fleet. "This is insane," said her wingman over the radio. "We're fighting inside a planet." "It's only insane if it doesn't work," Collins replied, launching missiles at a Zephyrian cruiser that was too busy dealing with its malfunctioning computer to notice the attack. The battle raged across the entire solar system. Humans fought from every moon, asteroid, and space station. They used civilian ships, industrial equipment, and pure desperation as weapons. But the Empire had 350 ships, and Earth had only 17. Numbers began to matter. As the battle continued, "Sir," Stone reported to Murphy, "we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. The Empire is adapting to our tactics." Murphy looked at the tactical display. The humans were fighting well, but they were still outnumbered 20-1. "Time for the final phase," he said. "Signal Earth Command. Begin Operation Last Resort." On Earth, President Santos received Murphy's signal with a heavy heart. She had hoped it would not come to this, but the plan had always included a final option. "Are you sure about this?" she asked Dr. Hayes. "It's the only way," Hayes replied. "The Empire will never stop coming after us. We have to make them understand that conquering Earth is impossible." Santos nodded and gave the order that would change the course of galactic history. "Do it." Operation Last Resort was the most dangerous plan humanity had ever attempted. Dr. Hayes had discovered that the Zephyrian Empire's greatest weakness was not military. It was psychological. The Empire existed because everyone believed it was too powerful to defeat. President Santos's order activated sleeper agents that humans had been secretly placing throughout the galaxy for months. These were not soldiers or spies. They were tourists, traders, and refugees who had asked for asylum on Imperial worlds. Each one carried a small device that Ben Carter had designed. The devices activated simultaneously across 17 different planets. They did not explode or attack anything. Instead, they began broadcasting a simple message in every language the Empire had ever encountered. "This is a message from the humans of Earth. We are not your enemies, but we will not be your slaves. If you want to be free, now is the time to choose." Along with the message came something that had never existed in the Empire before: proof that resistance was possible. Videos of the Battle of Saturn, recordings of human ships defeating Imperial forces, and most importantly, instructions on how to build the same viruses and weapons that humans had used. On Altair Prime, Governor Keshara watched the broadcast with growing excitement. Her people had been under Imperial rule for 50 years, but they had never forgotten their desire for freedom. "Governor," her aide said urgently, "we are receiving similar broadcasts from the vegan colonies, the Centauri Republic, and the Rigel Federation. They are all declaring independence from the Empire." Keshara smiled for the first time in decades. "Then we will not be alone. Send a message to all Altarian ships. It is time to remember who we used to be." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Species that had surrendered without a fight were suddenly remembering that they had once been warriors, explorers, and free people. The human example had shown them that the Empire could be beaten. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Empress Seleneth watched her empire begin to crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Rebellions had started on 23 worlds. Imperial governors were being overthrown. Entire fleets were defecting to join the rebels. "Your Majesty," Admiral Vexthal said carefully, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Show me." Admiral Murphy appeared on the screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Determination showed the controlled chaos that had become the human way of fighting. Crew members were working at their stations while repair teams fixed battle damage in the background. "Empress Seleneth," Murphy said formally, "I think it's time we had a conversation. You dare to address me directly?" The Empress hissed. "Ma'am, with respect, we're in the middle of a battle that's destroying both our fleets. Half the galaxy is in rebellion. And frankly, this whole thing started because you demanded something we couldn't give you. The Empire does not negotiate with rebels." Murphy's expression became serious. "Then the Empire is going to lose a lot more than just one solar system. Look around you, Empress. Your people are fighting a war they can't win because they're fighting everyone at once." On cue, new ships began arriving at the edge of the solar system, but these were not Imperial reinforcements. Ships bearing the flags of a dozen different species dropped out of hyperspace and moved to join the human fleet. Governor Kashara S. voice came over the communication channel. "This is the Free Altarian fleet. We stand with humanity." More voices joined in. The vegans, the Centaurians, the Rigelians, and species that humans had never even heard of. All of them were there to fight for the simple idea that no one should have to kneel to anyone else. Empress Seleneth looked at the tactical display with growing horror. Her 350 ships now faced a combined fleet of over 400 vessels. Worse, the enemy ships were fighting with human tactics. They ignored formations, used civilian equipment as weapons, and seemed to take joy in breaking every rule of civilized warfare. "Your Majesty," Vexthal said quietly, "we cannot win this battle. The Empire does not retreat. The Empire also does not exist if all its worlds are in rebellion." Dr. Hayes had been monitoring Imperial communications throughout the battle. She understood Zephyrian psychology better than anyone, and she knew exactly what would break the Empress's resolve. "Captain Murphy," she said over the radio, "I'm sending you something that might end this without destroying their entire fleet." Murphy received Hayes's data packet and smiled. "Ben, can you broadcast this across all Imperial ships?" "Already working on it, sir." What Hayes had discovered was the ultimate weapon against Imperial pride. She had found records of every species the Empire had conquered, along with their original military capabilities. When broadcast to the Zephyrian fleet, the message was clear. The Empire had never actually defeated anyone who fought back. Every victory in Imperial history had come against species that surrendered without a real fight. The Zephyrians had never won an actual war. They were administrators and bureaucrats who had convinced the galaxy they were warriors. The psychological impact on the FAG Imperial fleet was immediate. Crews that had believed themselves to be elite soldiers suddenly realized they were clerks with fancy ships. The fear that had kept the Empire together for centuries vanished in a single moment of understanding. Mutinies began breaking out across the Imperial fleet. Ship after ship stopped fighting and requested permission to withdraw. Some crews simply shut down their weapons and declared themselves neutral. Others asked if they could join the rebels. Empress Seleneth watched her empire die in the space of an hour. The great machine of conquest that had ruled the galaxy for 2 centuries was falling apart because one small species had refused to be afraid. "Your Majesty," came a voice from her own bridge crew, "the ship's council has voted. We no longer recognize Imperial authority." The Empress turned to see her own officers standing behind her with expressions of determination that she had never seen before. Her own people were choosing freedom over empire. "Admiral Murphy," she said into the communication system, "I request Negotiations. The peace talks were held on Luna, Earth's moon. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the small conference room that would later be known as the birthplace of galactic freedom. Empress Silineth, no longer commanding an empire, sat across from Admiral Murphy and the other rebel leaders. She looked older now, as if the weight of centuries of conquest had finally caught up with her. "What are your terms?" she asked. "No terms," Murphy replied. "No conquest, no submission, no empire. Just an agreement that everyone gets to choose their own path. And if I refuse," Dr. Hayes answered, "then you can try to rebuild your empire with the few ships that are still loyal to you. But I don't think you'll find many volunteers for a second round." The negotiations took 3 days. In the end, the agreement was simple. The empire would be dissolved. Each species would be free to govern itself. Trade and cooperation would be voluntary. Most importantly, no one would ever again be forced to surrender their freedom to anyone else. 6 months later, Admiral Murphy stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Cooperative Council. Representatives from 47 species sat in a great circle, each one equal to all the others. "The galaxy is big enough for all of us," Murphy said in his opening address. "We don't need rulers or empires. We just need to remember that freedom is not something you take from others. It's something you share with them." In the audience, former Admiral Vex Thul, now serving as one of 3 Zephyrian representatives, took notes. His species had learned a valuable lesson about the difference between ruling and leading. They were still adjusting to the idea that other species might have good ideas too. The Galactic Cooperative was not perfect. There were still arguments, disagreements, and the occasional trade dispute. But there were no more ultimatums. No more demands for submission. No more species forced to kneel. And whenever a new species was discovered, they were greeted not with demands for surrender, but with an invitation to join a community of equals. The Empire had demanded submission, and humans had laughed in their faces. In the end, the laughter had been heard across the galaxy, and it had set everyone free.